Every guy I have ever been with has told me I blast trumpet horn farts all night in my sleep. I'm really insecure about it and wondering if most men would care. And they are not smelly, just loud. Story 1. The first time I farted in front of my now wife, she got a big smile on her face. I looked at her, kind of embarrassed, and asked why she was smiling. She told me that not only did she see it as a sign of how comfortable I was in front of her, but now she didn't need to hold it in either. If only I knew at the time what that meant. Story 2. My wife is notoriously gassy in her sleep, and most other times as well. She will just rip one, giggle, and not even wake up. Meanwhile, I'm looking for the dog who has been blown off the bed and checking to see if anything in the room has been damaged. Edit. Thank you for all the awards. I never knew my pain, and our dog's pain, would bring joy to so many people. Laugh out loud. Story 3 reminds me of the famously improvised conversation by Robin Williams in Good Will Hunting. Sean, Robin Williams, my wife used to fart when she was nervous. She had all sorts of wonderful little idiosyncrasies. She used to fart in her sleep. I thought I'd share that with you. One night it was so loud it woke the dog up. She woke up and went, "Ah, was that you?" And I didn't have the heart to tell her. Will Matt Damon, she woke herself up? Haha. Sean. Ah, but Will, she's been dead for 2 years, and that's the stuff I remember. Wonderful stuff, you know? Little things like that. Those are the things I miss the most. The little idiosyncrasies that only I know about. That's what made her my wife. Oh, she had the goods on me too. She knew all my little peccadillos. People call these things imperfections, but they're not. That's the good stuff. Story 4. I hated having to share a bed with people. I moved in with my girlfriend, now fiancée, and I hate not sharing a bed with her. I miss her snoring, even though it can annoy me when I'm beside it. I even miss her sleep farts when I'm not sleeping beside her. A few weeks ago, I was downstairs just relaxing, and she was in bed snoring so loudly. I swear if I touched the roof, I would feel the vibrations. Suddenly, things went quiet, and I worried she was awake. She had a stressful week, and I wanted her to sleep as much as she needed. Then I heard a massive fart, and the snoring immediately resumed right after. I smiled knowing she was cozy and safe. Story 5. If I didn't care about you, I would find it funny and laugh it off, no big deal. If I did care about you, I would be pleased that your body works as it should. Everybody farts. Story 6. After reading some of the top comments, I think in general all men feel the same way. Comical. As long as you're okay, not in pain, and didn't mess up the bed. Everybody farts. Story 7. I love this question. My girlfriend has irritable bowel syndrome. She does her best to manage it by restricting what she eats, so it's not too bad for her. But she sometimes gets gassy. The other night, she farted so loud she woke up from her sleep and screamed a little. We both laughed and fell back asleep. Story 8. Most men wouldn't care. The first night I cuddled my girlfriend, she fell asleep on top of me. She ended up farting on me pretty loudly, enough to scare me. But she's the one for me, and I've never looked back. A girl that can fart will steal your heart. Sweet, my first awarded comment was about a fart. Story 9. I was talking to a girl who told me that one time she farted in front of her guy and it was silent but horrifying. Worse than she anticipated. It burned on the way out. They were in bed studying, and she was staring at him to see what his reaction would be. After a second, he recoiled like he was shot in the face. Was that you? Yes. That smells like something dissolved in the air. She laughed until she couldn't breathe, and he already couldn't breathe. They're getting married next year, and I'm one of the groomsmen, so I think it all worked out. No need to feel self-conscious. Story 10. I generally find it hilarious. People breathe, fart, eat, and shit. There's no point in being embarrassed about it. We all do it. Lord knows, I'm told by multiple women period gas really is a thing on top of that. Story 11. Hilarious. My girlfriend and I constantly fart in front of each other. So if she did it in her sleep, I'd almost find it cute. I say almost because her farts are less on the loud side and more on the I want to die because it smells so disgusting side of things. On the other hand, She has a friend who has been in a relationship a few months longer than we have been together, and she's still terrified or disgusted by farting in front of her significant other, which is so puzzling for us. The same thing goes for her significant other farting in front of her. For context, both relationships have been going on for over 2 years. Story 12. Honestly, there's not much you can do about that. I remember I silently farted one time next to a girl I hadn't been seeing long, and I watched her choke on it mid-sentence. Story 13. Guys fart. Women fart. You don't gotta. Most of my fellow guy friends don't care. I would assume most other guys wouldn't care either. We may comment on the base and stinkiness of it, and may even laugh about it. Honestly, the only ones I could see giving it much thought are the heavily arrogant, super clean freak Mr. Perfect types. I see it as no big deal, and honestly, it's a bodily function. If I hold my gas in, I start to feel sick and might even vomit later. I'd rather release the gas than end up bedridden and feeling sick. My wife farts too. She apologizes, and I tell her to quit apologizing because I fart too. Learn to laugh about it. You know you want to. Story 14. My fiancée just last night let 2 successive rapid-fire farts escape her while sleeping. She's incredibly self-conscious about anything having to do with flatulence and other bodily functions. The only times I've been made aware of her actions in my presence have ended in side-splitting laughter for a good 30 minutes from both of us. Shake it off. Most men are waiting for this conversation with anticipation. It's completely normal, and the sooner the subject is addressed, the sooner it will become less of an issue. If a guy is that appalled by an uncontrollable bodily function, it's likely a very high chance that he squats to pee. A little story about the first time she passed gas in front of me. I was on the couch one evening, just watching television. She had just finished showering and came over to ask me something. This was in the summer, so I had a fan pointed directly at my face. In her mind, she figured if she talked over it, no one would notice the sound. Her mistake was standing behind the fan that was facing me. Needless to say, I got blasted in the face, and the second my features contorted into an expression of surprise, she immediately squealed, ran away, and slammed the bathroom door. We did have a hearty laugh shortly after, but spatial awareness is your friend. Story 15. My boyfriend has cheekily set the expectation that a sleepover will only happen after one of us farts in front of the other. This is hilarious to me, and I think it is a perfectly laughable and reasonable boundary. It has been over a month, and I keep waking up in my own bed without him. Story 16. People pass gas. It took years for my wife to get comfortable passing gas in front of me, and I'm glad she did. It's uncomfortable to hold in your gas all the time. Story 17. My partner just sent me this link. She sounds a bit like you. She is very shy about farting in front of me. Embarrassed really, which doesn't seem fair to her as I'm pretty open about my farts. That said, apparently, I'm blessed by the fact that my farts don't smell, though hers don't either. Anyway, she farts in one of 3 situations, all of which I absolutely adore. First, sometimes she farts when taking a poop. She doesn't think I hear them, but I do. I'm just smart enough to pretend I don't. But sometimes she will let one out that is loud enough that she knows I heard, and in all cases, she will let out a loud groan to communicate she is very upset that happened. I think it's adorable. Second, sometimes when she is coughing very hard, a small toot will slip out. These usually result in her not being too embarrassed and actually laughing along. These are my second favorite farts of hers. Third, about once every 3 nights or so, I will definitely hear her fart while sleeping, but then once every 2 weeks I am blessed with her farting so loudly and with such fortitude that she wakes herself up, which makes me laugh so hard. This is inevitably quickly followed by her doing one of 2 things: getting angry at me for waking her up, or pulling the sheets over herself in shame and not wanting to talk about it. Either one makes me crack up and gives me a sense of joy that lasts at least a full day. These are my favorite farts. In some, you're overthinking it. With that said, I do think I might be a bit of a hypocrite if my partner just farted freely next to me on the couch. Can't say for sure though, as it hasn't happened. But if you're in one of the 3 categories above, I don't know a man who doesn't find it adorable. Story 18. Back in 1998, I was dating a petite redhead. She woke me up once in the middle of the night with a series of loud farts. Unfortunately, they smelled bad. I had just seen Good Will Hunting recently and immediately made the connection with Robin Williams' character talking about his wife farting in her sleep. I almost choked trying not to disturb her with my giggling because I knew she would smell the evidence and blame me. She woke up with an upset stomach later that same night. I haven't seen her in over 20 years, and I still have to fight the giggles every time I remember that incident. Story 19. I would laugh my ass off every single time and then try to have competitions with you. Also, I would make fun of you mercilessly for waking me up, but all in jest. Story 20. I do the same thing. My partner just pretends she rarely hears it. I only sleep on my back if I can help it, as it seems to prevent it from happening. Back when I cared more, I reduced my daily sugar intake, and it made me less flatulent. Story 21. So this reminds me of a time in my youth when I was traveling by train with 5 friends, 1 male and 4 female, during the night so we could reach the skiing resort a little early and go skiing in the morning. We had the cabin to ourselves, and the other guy and I were sitting in front of each other nearest the cabin door so nobody would enter. The cabin was for 8 people and we were 6, while the others slept laying half on one side and half on the other side of the cabin. At about 3 in the morning, when the girls were sleeping, one of them ripped the biggest, loudest, longest fart, like the mother of all farts. My friend and I weren't sleeping, so our gazes met. There was an awkward silence, and then both of us at the same time said a voiceless nice. The dude ended up marrying the girl who ripped the mother of all farts. To cut it short, I don't think anybody minds if you fart or not during sleep. Story 22. I'm fairly certain my girlfriend does not use Reddit, but on the off chance, what do you want for dinner today? Jokes aside, I don't mind it. It is hilarious at best and a non-factor at worst. Story 23. I would think that her gastrointestinal system is functioning, the end. If she wanted to address the non-issue, I would suggest a change in her diet, but I still could not care. Also, I would be highly amused. Story 24. I would probably giggle over it every single time. With that being said, that is one of my fears every time I sleep over at my girlfriend's. She is a very light sleeper and usually falls asleep way later than me, so I am always wondering if I am going to blow her away in my sleep while she is still up reading. Story 25. I had a girlfriend a few years back, and I will never forget the night. I couldn't sleep and was lying wide awake in bed. At the time, I had probably only been with her for a week. As I lay there, all of a sudden, a loud rumble came from the sheets. I will never forget how loud this fart was. I looked over to check and see if she was still asleep, as I laughed so hard I couldn't breathe. She was still sound asleep, and that added to my hysterical laughter. It made me wonder if she had been holding it in for the whole day. It literally put my farts to shame. I felt like I lost a little manhood that day. Story 26. The wife refuses to fart all day. I've seen her with tears in her eyes, refusing to let the sphincter slip. I've had her pull over cars on the freeway to fart. The one allowance she made was when we had to stay in our cars for 5 hours, and she asked me to turn up the radio, open the windows, put on the air conditioning, and not look at her or talk to her for 5 minutes. It sounded like someone tore a paper business card. You gotta understand, I'm quite fine with me farting or other people farting, but she's quite particular about it. Now, when she goes to sleep, she lets off the most hideously loud, scary farts that have woken me up many times, making it awkward. She doesn't need to know though, does she? Story 27. My girlfriend has great fartsmanship. The best moments are when we're in bed watching something. She falls asleep on my chest, then turns around and lets out a monstrous fart under the blanket. Most times, I can feel the hot air pass by the hair on my legs. It makes me laugh every time because I always thought I was as gassy as can be, but I found someone who makes me want to push it to the limits. Without skid marks, of course. To answer your question, to me, it really doesn't matter. Everyone farts now and then, some more than others. Besides, no one has control over their farts when they're sleeping. Might be exaggeration too from your previous relationships. What do I know? It's rather harmless though, isn't it? I mean, imagine going through hard times with someone who gets bothered by something insignificant like a fart. Anyhow, no need to feel insecure about it. People who don't think women fart are delusional, so no need to bother with them in any case. Story 28. I remember the last girl I was with, and she was staying the night at my apartment for the first time. It was about an hour after we went to sleep, but I was still awake. She passed gas, and I just pretended to be asleep for her. I didn't want her to be embarrassed, so I just pretended to be asleep already, laughing to myself. Story 29. I have been married 20 years to a woman who farts loudly. And it's not just that it's loud. Her whole body shakes a little, so it's smelly, loud, convulsion every time she farts. I wouldn't trade her for the world. Story 30. It's a completely normal body function. Don't worry about it. Anyone who is offended isn't worth knowing. Side note, while we're on the topic, farts smell so deaf people can enjoy them too. So, let her rip, tater chip. Story 31. My wife used to pass gas when she was nervous. She had all sorts of wonderful little idiosyncrasies. She used to pass gas in her sleep. I thought I'd share that with you. One night it was so loud it woke the dog up. She woke up and said, "Ah, was that you?" And I didn't have the heart to tell her.